Hey guys, welcome to the Best Practices Show, where we take a look at the best business practices from the best dental practices all over. My name is Kirk Behrendt, and I am your host. And thank you so much for joining us for today. As we don't even know what we're doing. We're just having fun and having some of the best leaders in dentistry show up and help us understand what's going on in this crazy world. And so, if you're joining our podcast for the first time, I want to do two things. Number one, just welcome you for joining an incredible community of where we're just committed to learning about what's going on out there. And then secondly, I want to encourage you to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts, whether it be Google or Apple or Stitcher or wherever you get it, so that you make sure you get all these great episodes. Every single week, I'll be bringing you a brand new leader in dentistry and some great information. We also take great show notes here, so you're going to want to visit back to wherever you found the show, and you'll see everything Lorne and I cover today, along with, he's got a great offer where you can audit the security in your practice, and I'll have him explain all that. All that will be listed so that you can go directly to where it's at. And so I couldn't be more grateful. So Lorne, I've seen you forever. You know, I don't quite have the email list that you do in the influence in dentistry, but I've seen you at meetings and all that. And I really appreciate you being on. And this is crazy. Now, I always want people to know who our guests are. So before we get started, because today we're going to be talking about a very important topic that's been flipped up on its end, which is the whole HIPAA cybersecurity ransomware thing. You're going to explain what that is, but I want people to know your story. Like, how the heck did you even get into this? You know,
Yeah,
in
that's
dentistry.
a good question. It was not the journey that I imagined. So, like most of your listeners, I was a full-time practicing dentist. I was a periodontist up in Vermont. I was a couple of years into my practice, minding my own business. I knew that I didn't love perio probably from the first day of my perio program. I loved doing the implants at the time. This was the early 90s. I was the only periodontist in Vermont doing implants. It was all oral surgeons. So I was stuck with osseous surgery and tissue grafts, and it just wasn't what I wanted to be doing for the rest of my life. The thing that I loved in my practice was technology. Again, this is the early 90s. This is long before Shines and Patterson and Carestream were involved. This is all individual companies. The first digital x-ray sensors had just come out, the trophy sensors. The first intraoral cameras were out there, like $35,000 cameras. And my background, my family owns the largest electronic distributorship in Canada. So I grew up with technology, and I had a knack for getting this stuff to work. I mean, it was all like, you had to get your own monitor and your own printers and stands and just get it all mushed together. There was no turnkey solutions like you have nowadays. And I started, doing this for my own practice. And, a lot of my friends, my colleagues, referring offices were also starting to get into some of this new technology. They were computerizing their offices. And I approached them. I said, listen, I'm happy to help you out. You're kind enough to send me patients, so let me help you out. And word started getting out there. I started getting calls from non-referring offices, and I figured, I should probably start charging for this because I'm doing this in between patients and evenings and weekends. The big turning point for me, well, two things happened. First off, the American Academy of Periodontology did an annual tech day. This was in the year 2000 that I went. I was in the audience, but the speakers up there were people that I'd met. And it's halfway through the first day, someone asked this really technical question, and the speaker up there stops and says, I don't know the answer to that, but there's someone here who I think might. Do you all know Dr. Lorne Lavine? Had me stand up and introduce myself. Within 15 minutes, I had almost 150 business cards that were plopped in my lap because everyone was there for technology. They just wanted help. At the same time, that's when California announced that in 2002, they were going to be passing licensure by credential. I had gone to school at USC and my college days here, so I had friends and family out in LA, and I figured, this is really what I want to be doing. I want to come out, my thought was I'll come out, I'll practice 3 or 4 days a week. I'll do my IT stuff a day or two a week. Maybe in 5 years, 10 years, whatever, I can flip that ratio or get out of the practice. Gave up my practice in Vermont, came out here, sent in my application, and got the surprise of my life when they wrote back and said, hey, thanks for the application. You're number 15,000 something on the waiting list. And, we estimate it's going to be about a year before we get around. And I've already given up my practice, and I'm living in LA now with a much higher cost of living than Vermont. And I'm like, oh crap, this is not great. And as far as luck goes, I don't think anyone could have been luckier than me. That literally within the first 2 weeks of me moving out here, Howard Ferrand, who runs Dental Town, contacts me. He says, Lorne, as you know, they had just started their website, the forums, the magazine was already out there. He said, I've seen some of your posts out there. Would you mind moderating all of our technology forums and keep the conversations going and help? And I said, of course, I'm happy to do that. About a week or two after that, Joe Blaze, who was the editor of Dental Economics, gave me a call and said, hey, I've seen one of your articles out there. We need a new technology editor for the magazine, write one article a month. Can you be willing to do that? I said, sure. So literally within a month of me moving here, my name was getting out there to tens of thousands of dentists across the country. And it just took off because, again, this is technology was just relatively new. People, like most dentists, just don't want to feel like they're locked in. I'm sure people love Shine and Patterson and Carestream for the things that they do. Most dentists that I work with anyways they're independent thinkers. They want to be able to pick and choose what they think is best. And unlike a sales rep for that company that only has one or two things they can offer, I'm coming in independent. I'm going to say, listen, tell me what's important to you and let me help you find the right products and services that are going to match what you want to do. So by the time I could get the license a year later, I already had a couple of employees and I loved IT. I didn't love PR. I think one of the things I found about myself, which is we all need that, that awakening in our lives, I guess. What I found out, it took me into my 30s to find this out, is that I was the type of person that liked to feel that if I did the same thing over and over, I'm going to get the same results over and over. With IT, I get that every single day. Cybersecurity every day. With perio, never. It doesn't make a difference how good my surgery was. If that patient didn't brush and floss, which is how you end up in a perio office in the first place, the procedures failed. It was just so frustrating to me to do these surgeries and they're coming back 3 months later, 6 months later, and the pockets are back, the plaque, even though we spent all this time on, going over brushing and flossing and home care. And, we wanted to make sure that they were really up to speed. It's really hard to change those habits. So, by the time I could get the license, I said, forget it. I'm loving this. And, now I've got 6 full-time employees and we travel all over North America. I've lectured in Scotland and Australia and Brazil. And, I just love what I'm doing. So no regrets.
Yeah, and it shows. It shows. It's also too, you and I were talking before we went live here. This is a big thing. I want you to talk about the why, because security was always important. Now, you and I had chatted like 400 offices in Wisconsin couldn't, and I shared with you, like, I have a client, he couldn't get in his computer. It was terrible. And they shut them all down. And it wasn't the computers, it was the support. And then we've got COVID. So can you talk about the why? Why is security and ransomware, why is that such a hot topic now?
So it's been thrust to the forefront. So over the last couple of decades, obviously there's been a push for dental offices and all healthcare providers to go electronic with their data, much easier to share information. As we got into that, and the actual initial HIPAA rules started in '96. So it actually goes back, close to 25 years now. There was a recognition that, as healthcare providers are getting more and more electronic with their data, we need to make sure that we do everything we can to secure and protect that data. And we all can agree with that. Where HIPAA came into it is to set rules and regulations to try to get to that point. And over the years, we felt that it was critical. All IT providers try to differentiate themselves. We're just not, people that can get you computers and slap them together and put up a network for you. we wanted to do something that people said, hey, this is unique for dentistry. We want to work with someone who understands. And besides the fact that I was a dentist, and obviously I understand dentists and dental viewpoints and what it's like to actually, walk the walk and talk the talk. But we felt that HIPAA was really kind of a driving force with all of this. What I found over the years is that it just, for whatever reason, wasn't exciting people, that they just felt, what are the odds of me getting audited, or, what are the chances that I'm going to suffer a breach? And they didn't understand it. And over the last 2 or 3 years, the thing that has, in my mind, changed the entire equation is ransomware. And for people that don't understand what I'm talking about, ransomware is a specific type of virus that locks your files. And the way that you typically will know that you have it is that you come into the office one day, or you're in the middle of the day, and all of a sudden something pops up on the screen. And it basically says your files have now been locked, and you have to pay X dollars or send them an email or something to get that unlocked key. They do not take checks. They do not take credit cards. It's all electronic Bitcoin, all secure encrypted type transmissions. It has just exploded over the last number of years. What we actually found with COVID is that it got a lot worse, because typically when you're in the office and you're there every day, you can oftentimes be aware that something's going on. If someone's hacked into your network, for example, and you can see the mouse cursor moving around, or all of a sudden things are slowing down, or there's not always a warning sign, but a lot of times there is, that something's going on. But especially between mid-March to mid-May, when most offices were actually closed down and people were either completely shut down or working remotely, they still kept their computers on because they still had to access that data. We saw an explosion in the number of attempts at hacking and ransomware attacks. You had mentioned about those offices in Wisconsin. That was actually last year. And what that brought forth to the limelight is that as an office, there's everything, you can do all the things that you're supposed to do to protect yourself. And then we can go through the list of things. But one of the questions you have to ask yourself is, the people who are accessing my network, my IT provider, my practice management software company, the people that handle my backup, are they doing what they need to be doing to keep those connections secure? In the case of those offices in Wisconsin, what it turned out is that all IT companies, we do remote access. We set up remote software so that we can log into an office's computer, work on it as if we were sitting right there. It's way cheaper, way more efficient than, especially because for us, when 90% of our clients are outside of California, most are in the Midwest and the East Coast. So I'm obviously not going to fly one of my guys out to Boston to hop onto a computer that they can, sit at their own desk and in 5 minutes resolve the problem. But it turned out that this particular IT company was not doing best practices to protect that data. You think about it. If someone gets into, we use a portal to access all our computers. We have well over 1,500 computers that we monitor and support. If someone can get into my portal, they have access to 1,500 computers. They can push out a ransomware virus or do any other type of, bad things that they want to do. It's wide open because they're now into my portal. So the way that we deal with that is that most of us, when it comes to setting up our portals, the software should be set up with mandatory what's called two-factor authentication. Some people might call it 2FA or multi-factor authentication. Most of your listeners are probably familiar with this, where you log into a website and then it sends a code to your cell phone or to your email. It's a second level of protection. You have to enter that code in order to get onto the website. So for whatever reason, that wasn't set up, I guess, with that office, with that IT provider in Wisconsin. There's also like 100 in Colorado that were also hit last year. But to me, it's mandatory that we as IT providers do everything we can to make sure that no one has access to our clients' data, because that would be just devastating. And as you said, you had a client that went through it. Most of the ones, we knew a couple. We had one of our clients had been a previous client to this IT provider, and they had never removed the software, so they got hit as well. And we had a good backup, so we were able to get them up and running within a few hours. But a lot of the offices that we were in touch with, they were down for a week, 2 weeks. Yeah. I mean, it was just devastating.
Yeah, he was down for 2 weeks. And this is legit. So this is before COVID. I was out at Seattle Study Club Symposium. I had dinner with a bunch of dentists. One of them was from Oregon. He said this. He goes, so the ransomware is on there. It locks up and they wanted $40,000 in Bitcoin. So he went to his attorneys. His attorneys he's like, they're going to help me, right? They go, no, just pay it. He's like, pay it? They're like, no, just pay it. He's like, this is stupid. So he paid it to get back into his files. So I think this is just one of those non-negotiable pieces. It's a box you got to check now as a dentist, right?
Yes. So, sometimes you can negotiate with the criminals that are doing this if you don't have the money. I think there's a few things that people need to keep in mind. So the way that you typically would recover from this, the easiest way to recover from it is to have a good backup, especially an offsite backup, because you can restore from that. It's not going to always protect you. First off, we had this happen to an office that we know of where they did have a good backup, but the ransomware criminal said, listen, if you don't pay the ransom, I don't care, if you don't pay it, but if you don't, I'm going to take your data and put it up onto a public site where anyone can have access to it. They're basically blackmailing them. Like, hey, I don't care if you got a backup that you can restore from. Who cares? I'm going to embarrass you and put you up there. The other thing, which I think a lot of the offices, the ones that were hit in last year in 2019 and going forward, a lot of people don't know this fact. If you are hit with a ransomware virus, you have suffered a HIPAA breach. Most of us don't think of breaches in those terms. We think of a breach as, well, someone hacked into your network, or you lost your laptop or an external hard drive. The Office of Civil Rights in 2016, that they run HIPAA, they made a determination that if you have suffered a breach, it's a HIPAA violation because they define a breach as loss of control of your data, which is exactly what a ransomware does. It locks the files up. So unlike a lot of HIPAA, which is somewhat ambiguous, there's a lot of HIPAA rules that are open to interpretation. The breach notification rule is unbelievably cut and dry. If you suffered a breach, there's 3 things you have to do by law. You have to notify the local news media. You have to be listed on the Health and Human Services website. It's called the Wall of Shame. It's not a place you want to be. But the worst part of it, you would have to send a letter to every single patient of record in your practice, notifying them of the breach, what data may have been compromised. And normally you're talking about social security numbers, credit card information. We've had offices that have had to report that breach, and on average, they lose about 15 to 20% of their patient population within a few weeks. I mean, imagine it's a patient getting a letter from a dentist saying, hey, sorry, but your data was compromised. They're out the door. And plus it's considered, there's nothing in the HIPAA laws that say you have to do this, but it's considered standard of care to provide some type of credit monitoring for those people for at least a year or two. So we highly recommend, if an office doesn't already have this in place, that you get some type of breach and or cyber liability insurance that's going to cover you for that lost income, the legal fees, the fines, the penalties, the credit monitoring. That stuff's going to add up into the hundreds of thousands of dollars. So I think offices really need to be diligent and be prepared. I mean, obviously you want to prevent getting ransomware in the first place, but if it gets on there, you want to make sure that you've got some type of protection in place.
Yeah. Now let's say, I just want to say, and I don't know the answer to this question. Let's say I'm a young dentist watching this and I'm 32 and I'm like, Lord, I'm young, I'm growing. I don't need to worry about this. Like, give us some perspective. I've had David Harris on here on embezzlement. I can't remember the statistic, but he's like, you should tell all your listeners 2 out of 5 of them will be embezzled. Do we have any recent statistics? Like, how serious is this of a problem in dentistry?
No, and I think the problem with that is twofold. Number one, I think there's obviously a level of embarrassment and shame that if you get hit with a ransomware, you don't want to tell people about it because it's, oh my God, I got hit with it. And, it's embarrassing. I think there is a certain portion of dentists out there who are aware of what I said, that, hey, if you get hit, you got to declare a breach. They don't want to do that. I mean, not that I would ever encourage people to break the law, because it is a very clear law that you have to do this. But I can understand the motivation. Like, oh my God, I mean, if I can just kind of, shuffle this under the rug and not tell anybody about it and avoid all the hassle, that I can just get this virus off of there. But it's almost impossible to say. I would say, our clients don't get it because we have so many protections in place. But if I had to put a number on it, the number of offices that may have been hit, I'd probably put it in the 5 to 10% range. I mean, I think it's pretty high. I think a significant portion of offices have been hit in one form or another. Once it happens to you, typically it doesn't happen again, because then that's, the easiest sale we ever make in our business is for an office that went through a ransomware attack. Because when I started saying, okay, we need to get a firewall in place, we need to do all these things, they're like, great, do it. I don't care what it costs, just do it. I don't want to go through this again. So
yeah. So again, I'm going back to be the young days. Give me some best practices. So obviously I'm going to want a 2-factor authentication. Having a backup is probably a good idea. It's not going to save me, but what are some other things that you'd say, look, just real simple things. You got to do this. What would they be?
So, I mean, we take it kind of in different stages of the attack. So first and foremost, do what you can to make sure it doesn't ever get on there in the first place. That's obviously the best thing to do. So there's 3 things that you want to do with that. First off is a firewall. Firewalls are, there are software firewalls out there. We highly recommend a hardware firewall. Every router, every cable modem has a built-in firewall. There's nothing in HIPAA that says you have to get one firewall versus another. They don't certify something as being compliant or not. That being the case, as with most things in life, there are better things out there. The more you pay, oftentimes the better it is. We don't recommend using just the firewall that comes with your cable modem, or using like the consumer level one, like the Linksys or D-Link or Netgear. Get a business class firewall. Companies like Sophos and SonicWall make good firewalls. You don't need to go crazy. I mean, you don't have to go out and spend $5,000 on a Cisco enterprise firewall. A good Sophos, SonicWall, $500 to $700, give or take, for a decent firewall. Number 2 is make sure your operating systems are current and up to date. That is a very common way for ransomware to get on your system. Most offices who had Windows 7 were aware of the fact, that if they have IT companies, they were all telling them back, a year or so ago, hey, you need to upgrade to Windows 10 because Microsoft is no longer offering support for Windows 7 as of January of this year, 2020. It wasn't because of the fact that Microsoft wasn't supporting the operating system, it's because they stopped patching it. You have to, and that's a law. There's actually a HIPAA law called patch management. You have to keep your software current and up to date. All software has security holes in it. And you go out and you find the patches, and a lot of times the patches have holes in them. It's kind of like this game of whack-a-mole where you're just trying to constantly stay on top of it. But you need to be patching it. And obviously, if the company like Microsoft, if they're not producing patches anymore, that's a huge security risk. That being the case, the most common entry for ransomware is email. So I think the third step in this is to make sure that your staff are educated and trained on how to recognize those emails, how not to click on links. It's stuff that we all know, but like you said, for that young dentist who might be tech savvy, that doesn't mean your staff are necessarily.
It looks legit too. I just got one last week, and it was from Federal Express or like something, and it said we are trying to get a package to you, and it was a zip file at the bottom. I'm like, okay, you don't need to send a zip file to me to know my address. And so I told my whole family, nobody answered, don't click on that. And you've seen them on Amazon where, hey, we can deliver all this. It looks legit sometimes. So you got to be extra careful of that stuff. Right?
Yeah,
it happens.
There's an easy way of checking. A lot of times there'll be a link in there. Take your mouse cursor and hover it over the link. And usually at the bottom of the page, it'll actually tell you where that link goes to. So the ones that I tend to get a lot are from like Netflix or Amazon. And I know they're fake because I look at them right away. But there's a link in there, and I just take my mouse cursor and hover it over it. And then right on the bottom there, it'll actually show you the actual address that it goes to. And it'll be some ridiculously long, random letters and numbers. That's a problem. The best thing you can do is if you get an email from a company that you do business with FedEx, Amazon, Netflix, and they say there's a problem, rather than clicking on the links or downloading the file, just go into your browser and access the site the way you normally would. And of course, you'll find that there's no problem there whatsoever.
Okay, I got another question for you. So I get these random texts saying, "Oh yeah, we're trying to get you a package," like, and you're like, "What the heck is this?" Do they come through text too, or not? Or is that,
Yep, yep. Just swipe them.
however? Okay,
Delete.
I've got 95 questions for you. So is this true? Mac is safe, PCs more susceptible. You know, you've heard that one before. Like
Yeah,
Mac doesn't have virus.
Mac is safer. The problem for Apple is it's the self-fulfilling prophecy is that as the share of Apple devices has increased drastically over the last decade or so, they become a bigger and bigger target. So there are certainly viruses that attack Macs. Ransomware, it doesn't really care about the operating system. You can absolutely be hit if you have Mac systems as well. So they're safer, but and of course, there's very few dental specific applications that work on Macs.
Right.
So most offices are running PCs.
Now, again, I don't know these answers, so I get these questions. What about a software, practice management software that's web-based? Like any difference there or not? Like
To a certain degree. So one of the things, it's one of my pet peeves is that the companies who sell cloud-based practice management software products, they will tell people, hey, go ahead with our products because besides the fact that they think they have a better product, that it's safer, that you don't have to worry about HIPAA compliance. The problem with that is that HIPAA applies to all electronic protected health information, EPHI. Yes, your practice management software is a main source of that. It is far and away not the only source of that. If you have images, digital x-rays, panel images, photos, emails, Word documents, spreadsheets, QuickBooks, Invisalign, anything that's got a patient name, a chart ID, a date of birth, anything that has an identifier, and there's actually 18 different identifiers that HIPAA uses. If it has any one of those things, it's considered electronic protected health information and has to be treated exactly the same way. So unless your entire business, everything is cloud-based, you have no photos, no emails, nothing on the computers, that maybe you're into that category, but almost every office we work with has something that's local, whether it's, patient photos that they've taken or digital x-rays. There's really not a whole lot of great cloud-based options for imaging, especially if you're doing cone beam or panos, larger image files as well. So
other questions that, again, I get these. So let's say I'm a dentist and I got a large team and people have access and they have emails. Like, what are some of the best practices around employees and team members when it comes to malware or cybersecurity? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, so we talked about the things that you need to do to prevent it from getting on in the first place. The next part of the process is, well, what happens if it does get on there? And you talked about having a good backup. That is critical. It has to be, you want a local backup because that's going to be your first line of defense to restore from. That local backup is not going to help you if it's hit with ransomware or if you get hit with a fire or flood or theft or something like that. You need something offsite. In the past, people would put it onto an external hard drive or a CD or DVD and take it out of the office. You can still do that. We try to talk people out of it. Ideally, you just want to eliminate the human component in all of this. Get it automated. Any good IT company, we do this, other companies do it as well, can handle the backup. HIPAA has all kinds of laws about the backup, that it has to be encrypted. You have to test it and verify it. You have to do test restores. Most dentists just don't want to have to deal with that. They'd rather just pay a monthly fee and have someone handle it for them. So you have to have a backup. I think it's a misconception to say, hey, we've got antivirus software, we're covered, because even though most of the antivirus companies will tell you, yeah, we do a good job with ransomware, sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. There are ransomware specific programs out there, programs like Intercept X and Hitman Pro. I would highly recommend that offices invest in additional software to protect their systems. You're talking $40-50 a computer per year to get really good ransomware protection. So you obviously want to have something like that in place as well. But you've got to educate your team on it and how to recognize it. You have, as I said, you have to have insurance in place. You have to have all this stuff there. Everything that, like I said, everything that we've been talking about, other than the insurance, is a HIPAA law. It's not like you have an option. Again, like a lot of people, they look for ways to cut costs, and most offices, if given the choice, would rather spend nothing than spend money on this. But we always try to explain to people, listen, I mean, even a day or two of downtime is what, 5,000, 10,000 in lost production, depending on your practice. That's, if you got like every service that, an IT company could provide you, that's going to cover you for at least a year, if not more. And of course, if you have to pay the ransom, who knows what that would cost. So, and then of course, if you've suffered a HIPAA a breach, now you're looking at tens, hundreds of thousands of dollars there. And, so it's kind of like, well, you can pay a little now or pay a lot later. So everyone's got their own approach to it.
What's the biggest misconception when it comes to HIPAA or cybersecurity that people just consistently get wrong when you're out there talking to dentists? Anything
can't happen to me.
Okay,
it just can't happen to me. It's we're a small dental practice. We're rural. We're not a big target. We've got new computers. We got an IT guy. We've got antivirus software. It just, why should we worry about this stuff? It just can't possibly happen. I don't know anybody that got hit with a ransomware. I don't know anyone that's gone through a HIPAA audit. So how could it happen to me? And it does. It happens a lot.
Now, the future is anyone's guess, but I always like to ask every key opinion leader, what's the future? Let's say, again, I'm a young dentist watching this. What can I anticipate in the future when it comes to HIPAA? Like you're the inside scoop on what's going on with HIPAA. Like what can we expect in the next year, the next 2 years, the next 3 years when it comes to HIPAA or cybersecurity?
So with HIPAA, a number of years ago, when it first became the final omnibus rules, which were 2013, they did, for about 2 or 3 years, they did a bunch of random audits, and basically collated all that data and tried to figure out, what is the pattern that we're seeing here. And a few years ago, what they came up with was, and this should not be a shock to most dental offices, small, local, solo practitioners are a bigger risk than large health groups who have multiple HIPAA compliance officers on their payroll. I mean, normally for most dental offices, your HIPAA compliance officer is you or your office manager. You've got one person handling it, and that same person, if it's your office manager, only has 47 other things she's got to do in the day. So they just don't have the time to deal with that. So there's been no new HIPAA laws that have been passed since 2013. That was the final laws. What we are seeing over the last number of years is a reinterpretation of some of those laws about what's more critical. For example, when COVID hit, you would think that hey, we got a free pass here for a while. I mean, this is bad and offices are closed down. The Office of Civil Rights, Health and Human Services went out of their way to release a publication. This is, I think, in February of this year, 2020, reminding offices, you are still liable for HIPAA. You are not off the hook here. The one and only change they said is, listen, if someone is incapacitated with COVID, obviously we're waiving some of the privacy rules that if you need to contact someone from the family, that type of stuff. But as far as your obligation to protect and secure that data, they want people to know that, hey, just because of COVID, we're not giving you a free pass. You've got to stay on top of this. So I believe over the next couple of years, and especially with all the cases that happened, last year and this year with ransomware, I think it's going to be a bigger problem. The one industry that is aware of this, unfortunately, is the insurance industry. I have cyber liability insurance. Most of our clients have it. My premium this year was triple what it was in 2019. Most of our clients that are renewing right now, between 2 and 3 times what they were paying in the past.
Go back to that, because what is that? Tell us what that is and what does it cover?
Yeah, so obviously every policy is different. The company that we use for our cyber liability insurance is really designed to be comprehensive. If you're hit with some type of ransomware, you suffered a breach of some sort, you call us up, we call it the insurance company, they take over, hiring lawyers, and all legal fees associated with that, working with your state dental society as far as what you have to report to them. We talked about, providing some type of credit monitoring, that letter that goes out, how are you going to word that letter that goes out to all your patients? The fines and penalties. The insurance company is going to be covering all of that. That's what they're there for. When we do our standard policy for an office is $250,000. We haven't had anyone go above that. With HIPAA, they have varying levels of fines and penalties. The lowest level, which are, the way they classify the lowest level is that not only did you not know about the breach, but that you realistically shouldn't have known about it. I mean, it was so obscure and so minor that you wouldn't even have known about it. Those are still usually $25,000 to $50,000 fines.
Wow.
The highest level, which you really want to avoid, is what they call willful neglect, which basically means you knew about this problem and you didn't do anything about it. That's when you hear in the news about some of these, multi-million-dollar settlements. And this is one thing that we always warn our clients is that, we talked about, you've got to get HIPAA compliant, you need to be cyber secure. One of the best ways to do that is with a formal risk assessment. There's a HIPAA law that says you have to do a formal risk assessment. You have to develop their version of a treatment plan called the HIPAA management plan. If you ever get audited, that's normally the first thing they look for. Have you done a risk assessment? Show us your plan. If they come in and you show them, hey, look at this, we did our risk assessment and we got our management plan, but you didn't lift a finger to actually address the things on there, that's willful neglect. And so you've got to if you're going to do the risk assessment, which again, it's a law, you have to do it, you have to be committed to say, okay, I'm going to at least get started on this plan. A HIPAA auditor doesn't expect that when we do a risk assessment and a management plan for an office, it's usually about 8 to 10 pages long, just the management plan. So they don't expect that you're going to address everything on that plan on day one. What they want to see is that, we started on a couple things here. We're working towards this. Most of our clients take 2 months, 3 months, 4 months to address all the things on there. So, you can crank it out in a day or two if you really want to, but there's no, you want to hit the most severe things first, whether if there's security holes in the firewall, if software is not being patched, if you don't have anti-ransomware protection, all that stuff, the critical stuff. But there's a lot of really minor piddly stuff that's going to show up on a management plan that isn't as critical if it doesn't get done on the first day, so that stuff can be put off a little bit.
Yeah, this stuff's got to be done. What are some of your last thoughts? I know, we only get you for a short time. I'm going to have you back and we're going to discuss other issues, but give us some last couple thoughts as we, close out this topic. What do you think?
I think, one thing that we felt is critical, and one of the things that we offer for everybody, you titled the whole presentation is, what you don't know can hurt you. The challenge for most offices is that they don't know what they don't know. Most offices just aren't aware of where they stand. Am I doing enough? Am I HIPAA compliant? Now we always try to stress to people, you are not 100% compliant. I don't care what you think you're doing. There are 700 pages of rules and regulations. You cannot get 100% compliant, but you can get more compliant than the next guy. I mean, there's certain things things we've already talked about, the firewalls and backup and patching and email, all this type of stuff. It's a longer list of things. So one of the things that we've always been offering for people is what we call a security audit or a technical audit. It's not to be confused with that risk assessment. A risk assessment takes 5 to 8 hours. It's designed to be very thorough and look at everything, IT and administrative and physical. A security audit is typically done in 20 to 30 minutes. It's designed more to be that, that 30,000 foot view from above. What's the low hanging fruit? Have you guys done a formal risk assessment? How are you backing up your data? How are you communicating with other offices? Is everything encrypted? Do you have anti-malware, antivirus software in place? Do you have a firewall in place? Things that we can very quickly and easily be able to look at and say, hey, this is where you're at. Here's the things that we suggest that you do. Here's the order I would do it in. If we were to do it, here's what we would charge, whether you do individual services or a package of services. Normally, that technical audit, we charge for it. What I'm happy to do for anyone watching or listening, I'll do it for free. As I said, it only takes 20, 30 minutes. There's no obligation. I'm not one of those, high pressure salespeople that you've got to buy from us, hold a gun to your head. You'll have the information that you need to make intelligent decisions, whether it's to work with us, whether it's to work with your local IT. In a lot of cases, the way that we manage to work with offices is they say, listen, I've got an IT guy I've been working with for decades. They're great, but they don't know HIPAA. They don't understand the cybersecurity stuff. I want you to work with them. I want you to fill in the gaps where they're not handling this stuff, but I still want them to be able to handle my day-to-day IT. Great. We're more than happy to do it. Yes, we do. We're full service and we're happy to take over the IT. We have a lot of offices that have people that they trust that, we're happy to work with them to make sure at the end of the day, the critical thing is, do you have the peace of mind to sleep well at night, knowing that you're covered? And as I said, I've known you for years. I follow your stuff. I think you and I may have met initially. I think it was at an ACT meeting in Florida. I think the All-Star people, I think Alex and Heather Nottingham introduced us. This is years ago, but
yep.
I'm happy. Listen, I'd love to have the potential to work with some of your listeners, and we're happy to waive that fee if it's going to at least help them make that first step towards getting themselves more compliant and more secure.
Awesome. I really appreciate that. Now, for the benefit of people listening on iTunes, like, how can they find you? How can they do this? Where do I go to learn more about how I do this with you?
Sure. So I think the easiest way to do it, so there's two things we can do. You can go to my website. That's the easiest. It's thediginaldentist.com, www.thediginaldentist.com. As soon as you get there, on the first page, it says complimentary. We've set the page just for your listeners. So it's going to say complimentary, security audit, whatever. All they need to do is fill in their name. I think it's just their name, email, and phone number. It comes to me as an email. My office manager, Candace, will follow up and schedule that time with you. That's the easiest way to do it. If people want to take again, it's not really a next step, but an additional step, and you want to see where you're at, I've actually created a 7-step checklist. We call it a security predictor checklist that you can go through this initially. It's before we would actually get into doing the security audit. Just if you want, for your own peace of mind, to say, hey, am I doing the things I should be doing? Do I really need this security audit? The website for that is go.thediginaldentist.com. So main website, digitaldentist.com, to just fill out, you want the complimentary evaluation. Go.thediginaldentist if you want to download that security predictor checklist to get a clearer picture of where you're at before you even talk with me.
That's awesome. Thank you, my friend. Appreciate that. So check that out at thediginaldentist.com and then go.thediginaldentist, like completely. And then also stick around while we say goodbye to everybody else, Lorne. But I know if you're watching this, if you enjoyed this, just do us a favor, hit the share button, share it with your friends. Also, keep sending us suggestions. You guys are doing it every day on things that you'd love to hear more from Lorne or anybody else. I know there's a lot of questions out there, and our goal is just to try to bring you the best information anywhere on the topics that are most important to you. So I really appreciate this. Thanks for joining me, man. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. And I should just add, if people don't want to do the audit or the checklist, on the website, it's got my contact information. Just shoot me an email, send me, call up the office. I never charge you my time to talk to an office. If you just want to pick my brain and, see the way I can help you or help guide you, I'm happy to do it. At the end of the day, we're all colleagues and I'm here to help.
I agree. That's awesome, buddy. Awesome. Well, like I said, stick around for just a second. Thank you guys for watching the Best Practices Show. And like I said, keep sending us suggestions. And until we see you next time, keep watching the Best Practices Show. You guys enjoy the rest of your day.